also learned from other newly released documents that Jeffrey Epstein was communicating with Democrat Representative Stacey Plaskett during a 2019 congressional hearing. That's right, directly with her, while she was questioning Michael Cohen, one of Trump's former attorneys. In fact, the kind of question she asked of Cohen, why was he wielding so much influence over a Democrat member of Congress on the House Oversight Committee that handled the Epstein files in the first place? Why was he feeding her questions? The email that the Democrats wanted you to focus on, though, is this one. Jeffrey Epstein writes, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And then there's a redacted victim, right? Spent hours at my house with him. Sounds incriminating, right? But I'm going to argue quite that it's not. In fact, it's not much of anything. First off, that redacted victim name, as you likely already know, is Virginia Giuffre. Virginia Giuffre, who wrote a book on her experiences with Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and has never accused Donald Trump of wrongdoing. In fact, she actually supported his run for president. And in her book said Trump did nothing wrong in all her interactions with him. Democrats redacted her name because they knew that would blow apart their story, which, of course, it did. So what does Epstein mean when he said Trump is the dog that hasn't barked? Here's what Epstein expert, a book author, Barry Levine, thinks. Listen.
Well, I think Jeffrey Epstein is referring to the fact that he believes that Donald Trump talked to Michael Reiter, who was the Palm Beach police chief in 2004, and began the first investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. I suspect that Jeffrey Epstein, in his conversation or email with Maxwell, was saying he was 75% there, believing that Trump might have been the whistleblower at the time. Again, you have to remember that particular year, the two men had a falling out, not only over the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell was taking young women from his spa at Mar-a-Lago for Jeffrey Epstein, but they also had a nasty real estate deal that both men were trying to get. So there was bad blood between the two of them.
Bad blood. The two men were not in cahoots. In fact, they were at odds with each other, which is not new information, but the Democrats are just hoping for you to forget that. In case you need a refresher, Trump severed ties with Jeffrey Epstein in 2007 after reportedly learning that he was recruiting young women and girls at Mar-a-Lago. One of those, Virginia Giuffre herself. Trump banned Epstein from the property and cooperated with lawyers who represented Epstein's victims. The lawyers have said that he was one of the only ones to cooperate. Everyone else stonewalled them. In fact, here's an attorney for one of the victims, Bradley Edwards. Listen to this.
The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know, and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
That was in 2009?
That was in 2009.
So there it is. Donald Trump lays out the case for them in 2009. Helps out those going after Jeffrey Epstein. It's pretty clear. It was the Trump administration, by the way, that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were actually arrested. If anything, everything points to the conclusion that Donald Trump was an informant helping the prosecution and key to taking down Epstein's vile sex trafficking ring. This hasn't stopped the media and Democrats from trying to prove the opposite, though. Remember when NBC wanted Epstein victims to go out and go after Donald Trump? But instead, here's what they got. Listen.
I do have to ask, and I know, and it's just something that I think we're compelled to at this moment, with the attention on President Trump, with these questions around a pardon, did anybody see or hear of the president himself doing anything inappropriate as it related to Jeffrey Epstein?
No.
No. A whole room of